AEW. We're talking AEW. I got a couple of. I just want to recap the first year of AEW. That's right, AEW, AEW. I just want to recap the first year of AEW because I've watched the first year of AEW. Everybody party for Mr. Hartgrave. Um, and I'm currently watching Double or Nothing. And boy, 2020 was rough on professional wrestling and really rough on AEW. And I know there's some people out there that were like, AEW sucks. And I kind of get it. If you tuned in because you were bored during quarantine, like I could get why that would hit. Because like 2020 was pretty rough in AEW. I'm watching Double or Nothing right now. I'm on the last match, the Stadium Stampede. And I'm hoping that match is good, but the rest of the pay-per-view is pretty shitty. It is in no way, but that's not their fault. It's 2020 made everything suck. So, and 2019 for AEW was fire. Like all their beginning pay-per-views, their first Double or Nothing pay-per-view, all that stuff was amazing. So I'm going to be surprised and this is all from that first year, 2019, 2020. I'm really going to be surprised if if matches from 2020 make this list. Quarantine matches and shit. They're just being nice if they do though. All right, let's go. Let's check these out and I'll see if I remember these and can talk about them.
First year. Number 10, Cody Rhodes versus Darby Allin Fighter Fest. It makes sense.
Yeah, I think this one.
Because while WWE.
Whoops. I skipped. I have to go back. This one's awesome. Yeah, Cody Rhodes versus Darby Allin. This is totally awesome.
Darby Allin Fighter Fest. It makes sense to begin this list with Cody Rhodes, arguably the face of all elite wrestling, the lead spokesperson, and along with the Young Bucks, the guiding hand behind the creation of the promotion. While Cody may not be as versed in high-octane acrobatic stunt work like the rest of his elite brethren, he more than makes up for it in formulating match narratives. He's a storyteller. His dad is The Dream, one of the greatest promos of all time, and he learned his craft in WWE, who have always prioritized story over moves. However, you can see a lot of how Cody wants AEW to differentiate itself from WWE in his match against Darby Allin from Fighter Fest. For starters, if you have the it factor, AEW will pay attention no matter what your size. And Jesus Christ, Darby Allin may be 180 pounds, but he's the next goddamn big thing. He moves like lightning, has a savage cruel streak, a killer half skeleton look, and has his storytelling timing down in this match.
You can watch his tattoo grow through the year too. It starts off as like a hand tattoo and it starts moving up his arm and it just starts creeping up his shoulder. He's doing this whole skeleton arm thing. It's crazy to watch over the year, this thing just form on him. And yeah, he's absolutely 100%. Darby is quickly becoming one of my favorite wrestlers for probably obvious reasons. And he's fucking amazing. And it's amazing to see him get the push that they fucking love him. They fucking love him in this company. The push they're giving him is amazing. So it's really cool to see this. I don't think this guy would have ever made it in WWE. I mean, he worked the independent scene for a long time from what I can tell and couldn't get anything going, but AEW picking him up, very cool.
Match, Cody underestimates him, hurling him around the ring like a military.
He's like a modern day everything. Man, I keep fucking this up. He's like a modern day everything though. He isn't just a modern day Jeff Hardy. He's like a modern day Undertaker, Jeff Hardy. He's like a lot of different legends rolled into one. You could say that about so many fucking wrestlers with Darby. It's amazing. Rey Mysterio, all this, he's all that shit wrapped into one. He's going to be one of the fucking greats.
Storyteller. His dad is The Dream, one of the greatest promos of all time. Cody wants AEW to differentiate itself from WWE in his match against Darby Allin from Fighter Fest. For starters, if you have the it factor, AEW will pay attention no matter what your size. And Jesus Christ, Darby Allin may be 180 pounds, but he's the next goddamn big thing. He moves like lightning, has a savage cruel streak, a killer half skeleton look, and has his storytelling timing down. In this match, Cody underestimates him, hurling him around the ring like a military dad looking to beat the Hot Topic phase out of his son. But Allin survives.
I like the match he did with Jericho better. I hope that match is on here, but the match that Darby did with Jericho is better than this in my opinion, because in the middle of the match, Jericho ties his hands behind his back And so Darby wrestles the whole second half of the match with his fucking hands tied behind his back. It's goddamn incredible. I would watch that match any day. I wouldn't go back to this match. So if that's not on here and this one is, I would put that on here instead of this. But if it's later in the list, it definitely belongs there because it's definitely better.
And survives as Cody realizes
I mean, you could literally fill this whole list with just Darby Allin matches, and I wouldn't even argue. I'd be like, yeah, that seems right.
he can't put him away before the time limit expires. And that's another thing. AEW has time limits and they enforce them, a storytelling device long abandoned by WWE. When the timekeeper announces only 3 minutes left of the match, suddenly the tension spikes. Every move by Cody has a renewed desperation and everyone's heart rates go up and up. A time limit draw may frustrate some fans, but this match made 3 very important statements. Time limits will now always matter in future matches. You don't have to win a match to become a star, and you guys should be all in on Darby Allin. Number 9, Riho versus Nyla Rose 2.
Okay, look. No women's matches should be on this list from this year. But it's nice of him to put one on here. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if I watched this one. I honestly, I did skip them. They're pretty bad. The one at Double or Nothing was almost okay. So I'm going to start watching them now. And I like Statlander. She's pretty good. But I don't know about Rio.
Dynamite. If there's currently a weak point in AEW's game, it's their women's division, which is not to say there aren't great characters here, but AEW exploded with a crop of guys who made names for themselves across the scene in ROH, New Japan, and WWE, but their first wave of female talent was comparatively much less well known, and especially their American talent less versed in the ring. AEW also hasn't provided them with as many opportunities to shine. You can understand them wanting to build momentum by spotlighting their more well.
Yeah, I don't think they've had like a women's main event, a women's Royal Rumble, like all the cool shit they were doing at NXT, they haven't done yet. So when they start getting to that point, then I think it's going to get better. They just literally don't have enough female wrestlers like in the organization yet to do that. So I think they're building it up though. I see new ones all the time being added, so they'll get there. If right now the big news is that Charlotte Flair might be coming. If that happens, then the women's wrestling is going to pop off for sure.
Well-known stars more often, but for the most part we're back in one women's match per show territory that even WWE have grown out of. The division should get there. Britt Baker is emerging as a...
When did Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa happen? Oh no, I haven't seen Thunder Rosa even come yet. She hasn't even shown up yet. So that's going to be huge. I think Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa coming is going to, or I know Britt Baker's already here, but I think Thunder Rosa is going to be, that she seems to get a lot of heat. I know Ruby Soho has come in as well. And I think she didn't get used very good in WWE at all, but she was there. So, all the people in WWE are talented. They just don't get used properly. So seeing them come to AEW is very exciting.
Great character, top gaijin, B. Priestley's fab, but up until now it's really only been a division of 2 big stars. Riho, Joshi superstar and first AEW women's champion, and Nyla Rose, a transgender Native American woman who's current champ and ruling the division like an unstoppable beast. These 2 performers gave us the best
See, I just watched her get beat, and that's a pretty decent match. I can't imagine that this match was good. I should have watched it. I didn't watch it.
AEW women's match to date on the February 12th episode of Dynamite.
I'll take his word for it.
Women's title. Riho may look like someone has brought their daughter to work, but she's 98 pounds of mayhem and the perfect David to Nyla Rose's Goliath. It's a simple, engrossing story that builds to a huge crescendo, and seeing a mainstream American audience chanting "This is awesome" for a Joshi wrestler and a trans wrestler is a genuinely wonderful thing. Number 8, Kenny Omega versus Pac, 30-minute Iron Man match, Dynamite. Competition breeds innovation, so it goes, and while the NXT AEW Wednesday Night War is generally just made up by wrestling YouTubers to push a more compelling narrative, it seems to be having an effect on the
No, that shit was kind of real. I don't think that was made up. It was a little bit. It's really real now. Oh, it's really real now. Now they're going up against SmackDown. So now it's really real. Like it's all out in the open. When he was talking about this, it was kind of like, are they? And I think this is even before they started doing NXT 2.0, which is totally fighting. They're fighting. Oh, they're fighting. They were eyeballing each other by the time this video was made, but they're full on warring now.
Programming. NXT and Dynamite have been throwing bombs on Wednesday nights the last few months, to the point where AEW is giving away a 30-minute Iron Man match between Kenny Omega and Park, two of the greatest wrestlers in the world, on free fucking TV. I mean, we'll take it. It may carry too many similarities to WrestleMania 12's Iron Man match for some people, but there's no...
I think the shots were fired when they gave out Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega on TV. That was just a little bit ago, so that's when the shit really hit the fan. This match is good.
It's a match of the year candidate. Two men who are made of springs and kneecaps hitting...
This match is good, but I don't know. It's good. I mean, any match with Kenny Omega is a shit. And once again, you could take this whole list and fill it with Kenny Omega, and I'd be like, yeah, that's about right. But is this the best at it? I don't know. I saw him do a lot of shit. All right, the match with the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Page is like number one on here. I almost guarantee it that match is number one. So I'm going to trust that that's on here. The match with Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley is definitely on here. So that can't be here. I'm going to assume there's like a lot of Kenny Omega on here. I'm not going to catch a lot of fans for this, but I'm going to say it anyways. I think the match with, and maybe it's just me and my taste, and maybe I'm definitely weird, but I think Kenny Omega and Nakasawa versus the Best Friends is better than this. Just for what it is. For what it is. Like we were just saying, if we're going to put the women's match here, I would say I would put Kenny Omega and Nakasawa versus the Best Friends on here instead of this, just because it's such a different thing to put on TV in front of Americans. And I think I would put it on my top 10 because I like different stuff. And that is so different. I feel like I had seen this match. It's a great match, but and I enjoyed it thoroughly, but I don't know. I mean, there's so many matches that happened in a year that picking only 10 is very hard. I would pick something more controversial instead of something not controversial at all. Plus, they fought so much. They fought like 3 times. And yeah, this interjected into the feud with Hangman. Like, he was wrestling with Hangman Dallas Page as like a tag team, and Pac wanted a revenge match. And so like the story of this match is kind of, the story of this match kind of sucks. And to be fair, there is no story with the Nakasawa, Kenny Omega versus Best Friends match. It's like no story at all. It's like a one-off kind of like comedy match. But I don't know. I find that more entertaining than a poorly told story. Because I think after this, they just move Pac he just starts feuding with somebody else. This is like the end of this feud. This is the blow off for this feud. And that's what it feels like. And I don't know. It doesn't really do it for me.
Springboard shooting star presses through tables for the sheer living fuck of it, and Pac taking his wonderful WWE heel persona and ramping it up times 1 million. It's been a point of frustration for some AEW fans that oft-regarded greatest living wrestler Kenny Omega has been somewhat nerfed in his home promotion, probably to avoid WCW levels of the bookers booking themselves to win all the time, but he's glorious here, pinballing around the ring without dipping energy for 30 straight minutes and powering through immense pain.
As much praise as I think Kenny Omega is due, no match I have seen to this point has been anywhere near the quality of what he was doing in New Japan, and I believe that is intentional. I haven't seen it yet. I'm pretty sure it's coming. I think that the tag match with Hangman Page is the closest we've seen to that kind of storytelling, but his in-ring work isn't there as much, and that might be due to not working with some of the guys that, like, I think after a time of working with some of these guys who he hasn't worked with as much, they'll get there to that point where they can be at his level. Not to sound like too much of a Kenny Omega fangirl, which I totally am. I can't even fucking hide it. But if you watch his matches in New Japan, he's so fast that I think some of these guys are going to have a hard time keeping up with them if they haven't. I mean, just working at that kind of speed, you got to be really, if you're not going to break each other's fucking necks, you got to be pretty in tune with.
In a series of awful looking brutalizers. It's not even the best match that either man competed in that week, which is saying something about AEW right now. Number 7, Pac versus Orange Cassidy, Revolution. Less than a week.
I would put this one above that one. Yes. Yes. Once again, you could fill the whole list with Orange Cassidy matches, and I'm very happy. That sounds good to me. This is better. This is the greatest fucking match. I'd almost put that. I probably want to put this one higher just because I think this is the first time we watch Orange Cassidy actually wrestle, and the crowd chant that we had going was "He's gonna try," which is just like amazing. Everything about this is amazing. The build up to this, the story being told. This is definitely superior to the Kenny Omega match. He has this in the right order. I agree with this.
Week after taking on Omega in that Iron Man match, Pac for Orange Cassidy, who is, and I 100% mean this, wrestling's biggest genius. He's one of the most over characters in the world, and he's accomplished that by almost never wrestling. I would applaud him, but he would probably not appreciate the effort that would take. To sum him up, he's a comedy slacker character who refuses to try, laid back to the point of rigor mortis. Case in point, he wrestles this match in aviators with his hands in his pockets, and it's fucking wonderful. At AEW Revolution, he fights Pac, a murder Wolverine with history's angriest muscles, and that is a match made in comedy heaven. A very important thing that wrestling needs to know about itself is that wrestling is very...
He's also a very good worker. Like, he's also extremely talented in the ring. So when it happens, like, he's putting his hands in his pocket, he's doing all his comedy shit, and then he'll do a spot that like no one else can do. So he's very impressive. He's very good.
Silly, and sometimes everyone wants to celebrate that. When Pac and Cassidy stood toe-to-toe, the fans erupted in self-aware holy shit chants without either man doing a move. That's something special. Pac being Pac and full of incredibly powerful hate, he makes an example of Cassidy, but not before Orange has an amazing sequence of underdog fire, because the most wonderful thing about his gimmick is, when he actually tries, Orange Cassidy is a really good wrestler, one of the greatest comedy matches of the last decade, and an actually stellar straight wrestling match in general. Number 6, Cody versus Chris Jericho, Full Gear. We have to talk about Le Champion.
It's good. It's not the greatest match that happens this night. It is really good. The story that's being told is wonderful, and the way that it's rough. All right, my problem with the match, and I would put this lower down probably. I might put it on the list, but maybe not. I thought, actually, if I'm going to put a Cody Rhodes match on here, I got to go with the one where he takes a backflip off the top of the steel cage. When he takes a backflip off of the steel cage, which is later on, that's fucking incredible. I've never seen anybody, I mean, maybe it's happened before, but I've never seen a moonsault off the fucking top of a steel cage. And that took such balls. Wardlow, that's right. I would put that above this because in this match, and I don't know if he's going to show it, but Cody Rhodes, and I have a review on this whole pay-per-view, which was very hard to produce and even harder to get by the YouTube censors. But Cody, Kurt Angle did it, then he's a fucking god too. Cody takes such a fucking botch move. He cracks his head open on the steel rail outside and puts a permanent scar on his head. Hardcore as fuck that he just troopers through the match with that, but with such an awful botch right in the middle of it. I don't know. It kind of goes down in my opinion. I think my favorite part of the match is when Jericho, a couple of things that are great about this match. It's Jericho that I like. Like, this is not the best Cody Rhodes match. That would be that Wardlow match in the steel cage. I would say this for Jericho, he had a couple moments in here, which were, I think he still had better matches too, but I liked him getting slapped around by Cody's mom. That was nice. And then I really like the spot he does where he hits Cody with the belt, throws it away, lays down like they were both knocked out. And then as the ref is still taking her time getting back to the ring, he kind of sits up, looks around and goes back down. That's fucking like Roadrunner funny, like Bugs Bunny funny, which is pretty fucking good. Right in the middle of this like intense dramatic match where his opponent's like bleeding out.
because in AEW, at the age of 49, Chris Jericho is doing some of his best work of his career. In terms of curating one's personal brand, Chris Jericho may be the greatest wrestling innovator.
I would put the Darby Allin match here. 100%. The Darby Allin match with Chris Jericho belongs here. If that's not on this list, that's a crime. Because, Chris Darby versus Jericho, that one belongs on here. I would say over this as the better Jericho match.
Of all time, and while it was a definite risk for All Elite Wrestling to whack their first ever AEW World Championship on an older wrestler, primarily known for his stint in WWE, in reality, Y2J has been...
I mean, Jericho versus Omega is quite good too. I mean, that's really good. That's also a very, very good match. And that happened, I believe, at like the original, the first Full Gear, I want to say. I don't know. It was one of the first pay-per-views.
Been the perfect first champ. Charismatic, smarmy, beatable but smart enough to cling to his title, and still savvy enough to be both well known to the casuals but respected by the faithful. Jericho's had some great matches aided by his Inner Circle faction, but the best has to be his match at Full Gear against Cody. It's a story over ring work affair, but it's a great story. Cody gets a match by...
Yeah, if he's just commenting on the story, I don't know. It kind of goes to bigger places afterwards. Is this really the showcase? I mean, it does lead to some great moments. I showed the promo on here that they cut before this, which is the greatest Jericho promo. I don't know. I mean, the little bit of the bubbly came after the Kenny Omega match, which just for that alone, I got to put it above because that had a pretty good story to it too. Not as much of a build. I think if that would have had the same build, it would have won even in his opinion, but they hadn't even had a Dynamite show yet. It was just like a pay-per-view.
By saying if he fails, he will never again challenge for the title, and then, a few minutes into it, jumps and accidentally cracks his head open hard way on the steel ramp. Jericho targets the wound as Cody struggles to keep conscious, all as his protege MJF watches at ringside.
The ending. Okay, the fucking ending of the match, though. Oh, God. All right, yeah, this match definitely deserves to be on the list. I would move it around, though. I would move this to where the Darby Allin match was, and I would put the Darby Allin versus Jericho match up here. That's my own personal taste, though. I got to say, yeah, definitely top 10 material for the end where MJF kicks Cody in the nuts. That's a hell of a turn. You didn't see it coming. It was awesome. That story is epic, yeah.
Fans in general unable to fathom the concept that Cody will never be champion in his home promotion. It's riveting stuff, and while I won't tell you the exact finish of the match, it comes accompanied with one of the best pieces of character development.
I just fucking told you. Spoilers. Anyways, it's been much longer now
in the promotion's history thus far. Number 5, Rey Fenix versus Nick Jackson, Dynamite. When talking about moves, sometimes more is more. Nick Jackson and Phoenix are both separately part of two of the best tag teams in the world with their actual real.
This is very good, but they're missing out on one that happened early on, which is not this match, but a match like this, which is Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers. The most incredible tag team ladder match I have ever seen in my entire life. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I haven't even seen him do anything since like that. It's incredible. It looks like a house show spot. Like it wasn't a TV spot. There was no build to it. He seems to be preferring story, which is cool. I like that. But the actual match, this actual ladder match between the Lucha Brothers and Young Bucks, I think it was on an early pay-per-view before Dynamite. The most incredible thing I've ever seen. Hands down, the greatest tag team match, ladder match. Amazing. Way better than this right here. Easily replace this on the list, although this is still very good.
Life brothers, and trust me, we'll talk more about the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros later. But on the 20th November episode of Dynamite, both men
he might have it on there.
Bewildering display of wrestling ingenuity. It's sheer, relentless nonsense dancing, but it's also mad inventive, spellbinding, and contains more moves in 15 minutes than 3 hours of Raw. Don't get me wrong, I'm a story before moves guy, but one of the things AEW really seems to understand is variety. The fact that tuning into Dynamite, you don't know if you're going to get Lucha, Joshi, Deathmatch, Spotfest, NWA, New Japan, Japan or DDT comedy, that is a huge boon for a show. There's very little story to describe here, and simply listing moves won't do this match any favors, so go ahead and check the match out, because it may not be the greatest match, but it's the purest distillation of a single spot fest that you're likely to find outside of a Will Ospreay cheese dream. Number 4, Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega, Full Gear. We've mentioned that AEW...
Yeah, I don't think we're going to argue from this point out. Yeah, 100%. It's so iconic. And it's really crazy watching Kenny Omega do hardcore wrestling, coming from his background where he's never really done it, and seeing how hardcore he went and doing this kind of, I mean, they got fined for doing this match. It was so fucking hardcore, they cost them like $10,000.
AEW does death matches, and Jesus Christ, this is a capital D death match. Honestly, it's not my kind of thing, but a good promotion, as we said, is built on variety, and if this is your thing...
I don't typically enjoy it either as much, but god damn, it's done well. And anything done well is worth watching, and it's amazing. I mean, they're doing Jackass level stuff, board full of mouse traps, and the storytelling is really good on this. The spots are really good on this. I think everything they did was intentional, and it's insane.
Well, it's everything you could ever want. Jon Moxley is unrecognizable as the man formerly known as Dean Ambrose. He's the first major talent to cross from WWE to AEW while both companies were active, and genuinely, he's wrestling like a...
Oh, I love it that they played to Moxley's strengths and just let him do what he does, and that Kenny Omega went there with him is the most incredible thing. Like, this whole thing, like, this is meta. This is meta good. That's why I like this, is this is so fucking meta. There's no story here. There's a little bit of build. I mean, the build to this is pretty funny too, because Jon Moxley just keeps like interrupting Kenny's matches and like throwing him through tables and shit. It's really funny. And the meta level of this, though, where we have hardcore wrestling being elevated, we have Kenny Omega not wrestling a kind of match that we know he hasn't wrestled before. It's kind of a direct fuck you to the bloodless WWE that we have. It's a direct fuck you to a lot of people who are in attendance here expecting to see maybe WWE. Some of the greatest moments are when they cut to the audience, and like the moms in the audience like just are flipping the fuck out about what they're seeing because they had no idea this was going to happen. It's pretty fucking great on a meta level.
Completely different man. No more hot dog carts and forgetting to unplug televisions. Now Jon Moxley is crawling through broken glass and being suplexed onto bed.
The broken glass spot is ridiculous, but this is real. The broken glass didn't hurt anybody because it wasn't glass, but this that's not faking that. And this took them forever to get out of, man. It was fucking grisly.
Heads of barbed wire. Remember before WrestleMania 32 and the upcoming no DQ match between Ambrose and Lesnar? Remember thinking, oh, that'll be good. That's the match you get at Full Gear between Moxley and Kenny Omega. He actually gets to hit someone with a barbed wire baseball bat this time. It's a lights out unsanctioned match. It's demented. It's epic. It's, in Moxley's own words, fucking garbage wrestling. But if you've ever wanted to see what CZW Moxley could do with a budget, this is for you. He and Omega thoroughly destroy each other over 40 minutes of carnage that makes Ciampa and Gargano look like a day at the beach. Number 3, Lucha Bros versus Young Bucks. Ladder match, all out. The moves. It's the greatest pure spot fest in AEW short history, and actually, no, seriously.
Yeah, watch this. If you don't like wrestling after you watch this, I don't know what to... This is like a circus act. It's just the fucking circus. It's the greatest circus acrobatic act you've ever seen. It is so professional and so good. It's amazing the way these guys work together. These guys must hang out so much together to get this down, and you know that they have done this at house shows for like years. This is fucking amazing. Check this shit out if you can.
Though, how are they going to top a Canadian destroyer from the top of a ladder through a table? How? AEW has a working partnership with a few promotions, and one of those is Mexican Lucha Libre AAA, for whom the Lucha Bros are their current tag team champions. The belts were on the line at AEW pay-per-view All Out against the Young Bucks in a ladder match, and yes, when you think Young Bucks and ladders, this is that match you're thinking of, but also double that, and also holy shit. There's an unmasking, submission moves done through ladders, and a series of spots where one member of Young Bucks hits one of the Lucha Bros with a move, while the other brother of the Lucha Bros.
That part's
is the other
fucking
young
great.
buck with the exact same move at the exact same time. Look, it makes sense when you see it. AEW's tag scene right now is as frantic and as hot as the fabled Attitude Era tag scene in WWE, with just as many broken bodies and broken tables left in its wake. Number 2, Cody versus Dustin, double or nothing. And speaking of the Attitude Era, hey, you guys remember blading? AEW remembers.
I don't know.
If Kenny Omega...
I don't know. I get this match. I would not put it as high. Just it's gross. It's gross. The story's great. There's no build to it because this is before they had the TV show rolling. I don't know.
and the Young Bucks represent the Cirque du Soleil of wrestling's future, Cody Rhodes is all about wrestling's past, the gritty, believable, often blood-soaked Southern wrestling style of the NWA legends Ric Flair, the Horseman, and of course, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. I don't promote blading. I generally think wrestling is better for blood being an absolute rarity, but sometimes, depending on the story you're trying to tell, it's not just a benefit, it's necessary. The first Double or Nothing, the first official AEW pay-per-view, and still one of the best matches in its history. Cody versus Dustin Rhodes, brother versus brother, pure Southern melodrama. It's easily the best match of either man's career, and what an absolute genius move to even book it. AEW was a new promotion.
I'm a fan. I would put it on the list. I can't deny it should be on the list. I would put it lower on the list, but not much, and mainly because it's definitely the best Dustin Rhodes match. I don't think Dustin Rhodes gets another match as good as this during this period of time, and you have to give respect to him. He's a very good wrestler. He has been for a very long time. So I would put it on here. It's probably better than it's definitely a better match than Cody taking a moonsault off that's a good spot. The match itself in the steel cage with Wardlow wasn't that great. It's more about the spot. I gotta backtrack on that. I would put this on here instead. This is the best Cody and Dustin match. I would go for that.
A lot of casual fans, its roster would be unknown, but this one match comes steeped with so much mainstream awareness, so much real-life context, that even if you've never seen any wrestling before, the story is instantly recognizable.
I wouldn't tell people to go watch this. That's why I wouldn't put it up higher. For wrestling fans, especially old school wrestling fans, which I believe is what we have here, yes, then I totally understand this. But my list, which is a guy who has kind of passed on wrestling for a bit, hasn't watched as many Goldust matches, hasn't watched Stardust matches, hasn't watched, their Cody's work in New Japan, doesn't hold as much weight for me. I do respect what's happening here, and I would put it on the list, but not as high, and I wouldn't tell other people to go watch it. I would tell them to go watch that Lucha Brothers match versus the Young Bucks any day. I would show that to everybody I know as like, this is why I'm into this shit. Check this out. I would not show them this and say, this is why I'm into this shit. Check this out.
And engaging, brash, arrogant younger brother trying to put his older brother, wiser but slowing down, out to pasture. But damn it, something, be it pride, guts, or sheer concussed will, keeps the old dog in the fight. This story is complemented perfectly by a wayward turnbuckle shot leading to Dustin bleeding all over the place as we watch the literal and proverbial lifeblood of the older brother leak away in front of our eyes, and yet somehow he clings on. Old school wrestling at its finest and the most emotional match AEW has ever produced. And number 1, the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega.
Okay, yes. This is it. This is number 1. I'll agree with that 100%. He is correct.
And Adam Page Revolution. Cowboy shit indeed. WWE may be doing the best cinematic style matches right now. New Japan may still have just about the edge when it comes to high profile singles matches, but in terms of tag team wrestling,
he totally missed the Jericho versus Darby Allin. That should have been on here.
AEW is the best promotion in the world. Private Party, Lucha Bros, Best Friends, Jurassic Express, SoCal Uncensored, Proud and Powerful, The Sex Gods, The Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega and Adam Page stacked from top to bottom, and this is the greatest tag match in AEW's brilliant first year for tandem wrestling. Omega, Adam Page, who is a cowboy and one of the promotion's rapidest rising stars, and the Young Bucks are all members of the Elite and all well versed in spot fest wrestling. However, what pushes this match into true greatness is the long form storyline that runs underneath it. Adam Page tried to leave the Elite, but his partner, Kenny Omega, is a founding member. This has led to tension between Page and the Young Bucks, with Omega in the middle.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I got another one of these lists because I'm trying to think of the other matches, but why should I try to think of them when I can just watch the other list? Here's another list, and this is from Cultaholic. It's the 10 best matches from AEW Dynamite's first year. Let's see if there's any different ones on here. See if there's anything I missed, anything he missed. See if they have. I want to see if they have my favorite matches on here that were missing on the other list.
Get the point by now. The ongoing self-destruction of planet Earth has affected just about everything, and pro wrestling is no exception. But one of the positive wrestling stories of 2020 has been the ongoing rise of a viable alternative to WWE. In October 2019, AEW launched Wednesday Night Dynamite, a weekly TV show blending old school booking with new school.
And it was the fucking shit. Dynamite is so awesome. Dynamite in 2019 is so amazing. Every night they come out, they put on a pay-per-view. Every night they come out, it's the top fucking talent. It's the best fucking matches. They came out swinging so fucking hard, and then 2020 just beat them the fuck down. Yeah, I think 2020 was basically missing from the other list. They really showed nothing from 20. That's right too. Everything in 2020 has been pretty shit. And other than the Kenny Omega Nakasawa match, I did enjoy that one. I'm having a hard time thinking of anything else in 2020 that was good. 2019, though, was fucking fire and Dynamite was lit.
Influences, and at the time of recording, it's about to hit the 1-year mark. Now, it hasn't been perfect. You know, the women's division continues to play second fiddle. Commentary and production still need quite a bit of polish. And at one stage...
Yo, don't be talking shit about commentary, goddammit. That's JR. No, commentary's the shit. I love the commentary in AEW. Don't even fucking get me started, man. The commentary in AEW is the best fucking commentary. It has never once annoyed me. Jericho on commentary is fucking amazing whenever that happens. Fuck you, man. Commentary in AEW is awesome.
We had 3 spooky stables on the same show. That's too many spooky stables, Tony. But there
That's true, but this is awesome.
have been many positives on Dynamite too. We've seen incredible promos from the likes of Cody, Jericho, and MJF, a collection of fantastic slow burn feuds, and of course, a lot of stellar in-ring action. So to celebrate...
Oh man, they missed MJF versus Cody. Dude, how can you miss MJF versus Cody? I think MJF versus Cody is better than, because that's the real story. MJF versus Cody is way better than Cody versus Jericho. I would replace that. I would replace that. And yes, that's why the commentary is good, because they actually talk about the match and they're not pitching t-shirts. I mean, yeah, they're pitching some t-shirts, but it's not this. WWE's really pitching you like everything under the fucking sun. They're pitching you the fucking network. Half the time on WWE, they're trying to pitch you Mick Foley matches and shit and have you go back and watch shit on the network and sign up to Peacock and shit. It's crazy.
Dynamite turning 1-year-old, let's run down the 10 greatest matches in the show's young history. But first, a few honorable mentions. Nick Jackson versus Phoenix.
All right, that's good. He put that in. He put that as an honorable mention. I would say that that's a better spot for it. Same with this. Honorable mention. Yes,
Cody
fine.
versus Darby Allin on New Year's Day. MJF and Wardlow versus Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus from Fyter Fest Night 1.
I'm glad they put this on here just because Luchasaurus is so cool. And he should be on the list somewhere. But yeah, probably honorable mention.
Brody Lee absolutely destroying Cody for the TNT title. And most recently, Thunder Rosa versus Serena.
This isn't really the first year. We're outside of the first year. I haven't seen, this hasn't happened yet for me. And I'm right at the first year mark, but cool.
Deep. Also, a very special last-minute shout-out to the recent Santana and Ortiz versus Best Friends parking lot fight, which happened pretty much a matter of hours before I recorded this video, so cheers AEW, thanks very much. That's massively inconvenient of you. And so, without any further ado, I'm Jack from Cultaholic.com, and these are the 10 best matches from the first year of AEW Dynamite. Join us. Number 10, Cody versus Eddie Kingston. Brody Lee's recent decimation of Cody drew shock and praise from most corners of the wrestling world. It wasn't so much the fact that Brody won, but the manner of his victory, treating AEW's Golden Boy less like the son of Dusty Rhodes and more like the son of Barry Horowitz. It was generally a good idea, but one drawback was the fact that it brought a premature end to Cody's TNT Open Challenge. His regular title defenses...
I haven't seen that either, because he's going outside the year, which is fine, but I haven't seen it.
Had allowed unlikely opponents to really shine. From members of the tag division like Mark Quinn to promising outsiders like Ricky Starks and even internet oddities like Warhorse. But the most effective challenge was that of Eddie Kingston. Kingston had been a standout of the American scene for absolutely years, bashing heads in Chikara, Evolve, Impact, NWA, IWA Mid-South, Jersey All Pro Wrestling, CZW, AIW, AAW, you get the point. He'd also built a reputation as one of the best promos in world wrestling, a reputation that was totally evident when he strolled unannounced into Daly's Place this July and demanded a no DQ match for the title. Cody accepted and the pair had a wonderful brawl, the sort of style we're not used to seeing Cody wrestle on a regular basis. This was kind of a mini version of a Mick Foley Prove Yourself match, you know, the hardcore icon having made men of Triple H, Randy Orton, and even Edge over the years. Well, Eddie Kingston did the same for Cody here, proving that the
Oh shit, they're pulling it. This is a quarantine match too. I haven't seen this hit yet. This must hit like maybe the pay-per-view after if it's the first year, it would have to be the Dynamite after Double or Nothing. If it's past that, then he is technically in the next year.
Pretty Little Prince of Pro Wrestling.
Or he's like counting, he's not like counting 2019, which would be really fucking weird not to count 2019, but I don't know. We'll see how the rest of the list goes.
Could actually take a serious beating when he needed to. And Cody did eventually pick up the win, but he had to go through a lot to get there. And by a lot, we mean he had to go through a few dozen thumbtacks, naturally. Kingston didn't really lose though, because his efforts earned him an AEW contract and a bright future in difficult times. Number 9, SCU versus Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. Alright, look, this match is a gigantic nerd who happens to be one of the greatest wrestlers in the entire world, teaming up with a drunk cowboy to win the tag belts on a cruise ship in the Bahamas. I don't think we need to say any more. But as well as being totally appealing enough on the surface, this match was especially great because of its depth. Page and Omega were expected...
It's not that great of a match. It's really not that great of a match. I don't think any of the matches on the cruise ship were good. That was a rough night. It was cool to see. It was interesting, but I think everything suffered from being on a cruise ship. Like, just all the wrestling was kind of off. It was cool, but would I put this on the list? I really don't think so. I think the other list was more to my liking. I don't even know what he likes about this, quite honestly. It's a fine match. It's fine. It's Kenny Omega. It's Hangman Page. It's going to be good. But I was disappointed that Santana and Ortiz were not on the other list. One of their matches should definitely be showcased there. Those guys blow me away consistently. They are much better than you might think they are, or they play. They play very goofball, like thug characters, but they are very good wrestlers. Extremely good wrestlers.
To be two major single stars in AEW, but both lost crucial matches to Chris Jericho, allowing him to dominate the early months of the promotion. So, despite a major personality clash, the pair began to find success in tag team competition, eventually securing a title shot.
I mean, why the fuck even put this match on when we know number 1 is Kenny Omega and Hangman Page versus the Young Bucks? We know that's number 1. We already know. So why the fuck is number 10 being taken up with this? Maybe he's just struggling to put Santana and Ortiz match on here, but there are better ones. This is not their best work.
Against inaugural tag champs SCU. Kazarian and Sky had surprised everybody in becoming AEW's first tag team title holders, winning a tournament that many expected to be won by either the Young Bucks or the Lucha Bros. So this match saw two very intriguing teams clash in just a great contest. And the star of the show was probably Hangman Page, breaking up a pinfall attempt at the last second, obliterating Scorpio Sky on the ramp, and taking care of Frankie Kazarian back in the ring to win the gold for his team. As the Young Bucks attempted to crash the celebration and congratulate Kenny, Hangman set the scene for their future clash, just crowd surfing away from the Elite with a beer in one hand and his belt in the other. Just perfect. Number 8, Riho versus Nyla Rose. Just a quick spoiler for the rest.
It's just the spot where you put, we got to put a female match on here. We will put this one and we will put it as number 8. Okay.
Rest of the list right now. This is the only women's match in our top 10, and there's a reason for that. If there's one main weakness of Dynamite in its debut year, it is almost certainly the women.
I should go back and watch this match now because it's been agreed by 2 people that it is the only female match from the first year that's actually any good.
Division. This is partly through bad luck, such as injuries to key figures like Chris Statlander and Dr. Britt Baker, and also, of course, the lockdown, meaning that we haven't seen fan favorites like Riho and Yuka Sakazaki for quite some time. But it's also partly down to AEW's own inconsistent booking. The women's division is rarely given a significant amount of time on Dynamite, and quite a few creative decisions have been questionable, to put it mildly. Can we just pretend the Nightmare Collective never happened? AEW certainly seem to be doing just that. On pay-per-view, the story has largely been different, with AEW at least blowing off their questionable women's rivalries with some great matches like Riho versus Emi Sakura.
No, that's not a great match. That is not a great match. No. That match sucks. This match is pretty good. I just watched this one. That's pretty good. It wouldn't make the list. It wasn't amazing, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Shida versus Nyla Rose, and most recently, Shida's great clash with NWA champion Thunder Rosa. So, in summary, there are pretty slim pickings in terms of great women's wrestling on weekly TV. I mean, Penelope Ford had a good match with Hikaru Shida back in July, but she was a last-minute replacement, and the storyline was quite lacking. And just a few weeks ago, Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb put on a bit of a technical clinic, but again, it didn't have much of a foundation to it. But Riho's title loss to Nyla Rose, now that had a background and a half. The pair clashed on the very first episode of Dynamite to decide an inaugural women's champion, with Riho scoring an underdog win over her much larger foe, but we're not talking about that match. And then on New Year's Day, the Joshi star again slipped out of Nyla's grasp with her reign intact, this time in a 4-way match also involving Baker and Shida. But again, we're not talking about that match either. It seemed only a matter of time until Riho's reckoning finally came. And that happened on the 12th of February, our favorite women's match on Dynamite so far. It was a classic David versus Goliath battle, with Riho showing craftiness and bravery in equal measure. Ultimately though, it was Nyla Rose who was finally able to defeat her nemesis, surviving a flurry of double foot stomps from the top rope, and eventually crushing Riho with a big spear and a beast bomb for the win. Number 7, Jon Moxley versus Darby Allin. Now this one may have a little bit of recency bias about it.
Interesting.
But we'll stand by our decision for now. And in our defense, it was very, very good.
All right, yeah, once again, he's pulling a lot of matches that were not technically in the first year, goddammit. I imagine this is very good. I haven't seen it.
Good. AEW's world title picture has largely been pretty excellent.
I'll get there. I'm looking forward to it now.
Of Chris Jericho.
I'm actually happy he's pulling so many matches that have happened, like that I'm about to watch. So I'm excited that 2020 is going to come out of the shitter a little bit.
To the grimy Attitude Era babyface reign of Jon Moxley. And despite a handful of good title matches on Dynamite, big clashes like Jericho versus Cody and Jericho versus Moxley have been, rightly, saved for pay-per-view. But that doesn't mean that Dynamite's world title matches haven't shone as well.
You see how I was right about, you see how it's moved up his arm though? That all happens like in the first year.
Especially this effort between Moxley and Darby Allin. The pair had teamed together before and even wrestled each other on a previous Dynamite episode, but the rematch saw the stakes raised. Moxley was, of course, by this point AEW World Champion, and his title was on the line. But MJF was also lurking in the background. What's he bloody like? AEW's uber heel had just staked a claim to Moxley's title, and despite talking a big game, showed magnificent hypocrisy in interfering on Darby's behalf, attempting to secure a title change, and in theory, a bit of an easier match for himself. He clearly wanted no part of Jon Moxley at all. Instead, MJF's plan backfired as Moxley survived his attack, but Darby battled bravely back himself and almost secured the mother of all upset victories. The champion eventually pulled out the win, but this was booked perfectly, making both babyfaces look even braver and stronger as a result, while also feeding into MJF's future title shot at the same time. Wonderful stuff. Number 6, the Young Bucks and FTR versus the Butcher, the Blade, and the Lucha Bros. A little while ago, I talked about an entry that was partly a celebration of one women's match, but also a bit of a deconstruction of AEW's women's division in general. So let's lighten the mood now and talk about one of the promotion's clear strengths: tag team wrestling. AEW's tag team division has been probably the best part of the company since the beginning of Dynamite, propelled by...
This is all very true. I'm not sure about this match, though. I watched it. I kind of remember it. But I don't know if it would make my list at all.
Omega and Hangman's title run, as well as the tension between the two and Hangman's tension with the rest of the Elite. This all culminated in the champions retaining the gold against the Young Bucks at Revolution, AEW's best match so far, it's probably fair to say. Well, it's either that or Cody versus Dustin. We'll accept either answer. But from there, from Omega and Hangman's victory, we moved on to the next phase of the tag division's overarching story: the arrival of FTR. Now, at the time of recording, AEW haven't yet pulled the trigger and given us the massive Bucks versus FTR dream match that we've all been waiting for literally years by this point. But we're definitely on the road to it. A key step in the right direction came on night 2 of Fyter Fest 2020, which does count as an episode of Dynamite. No, you're wrong. Get out of my comments section, please. FTR and the...
Also not quite technically in the first year, I don't think, so I didn't see this one. Damn it. He's picking a lot of stuff from like right after Double or Nothing. It's crazy.
Bucks made for very...
This is like literally like the next couple of nights after where I'm at. So, I have not seen this one. I saw a different one that was similar.
Uneasy partners in a big 8-man clash against Penta, Phoenix, the Butcher, and the Blade. Having Matt, Nick, Dax, and Cash on the same team gave this bout a compelling uniqueness, mixing the arrogant cockiness of the Young Bucks with the arrogant cockiness of FTR. Okay, no, it wasn't really that. Well, yes, partly it was that, but the real drama came in the blend between FTR's incredible grasp of basic tag psychology and the Bucks' incredible grasp of all that flashy extra stuff. It also featured one of the most preposterous Canadian destroyers ever captured on film, so that's certainly a bonus. But just when it looked like this super team were going to pull out the victory, their constant one-upmanship cost them dearly as the...
I have a hard time thinking that the Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny were in any of the best matches of the first year of AEW. But who knows? Maybe I'll be super surprised, but I'm thinking this doesn't deserve to be on here.
Heels, who by the way were an excellent team in their own right, picked up a shocking victory. But maybe it shouldn't have been so shocking a victory, because after all, they had Phoenix on their side, who bloody loves a big multi-man tag match, he does. Number 5, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara versus Kenny Omega and Matt Hardy. It feels quite wrong at the moment to heap praise on one of AEW's wild backstage brawls, especially one featuring Matt Hardy. That's because at the time of recording, we're not very far removed from Matt's terrifying fall at All Out and the profoundly unwise decision to let him continue. But back in May, in the midst of the feud between the Inner Circle and the Elite, Matt Hardy made his in-ring debut in a far more enjoyable Falls Count Anywhere street fight. Well, not really in-ring debut, but you know what we mean. With AEW building to...
This is pretty good. I watched the highlights from this. I could not get the full match. I think we watched it on stream, actually, the highlights from this. It was pretty good. Oh, maybe I did see. I'm not really sure. I think he's picking a lot of shit that's like, I wouldn't agree with this list at all. I was much more in tune with the last list. He's picking some weird shit.
Towards the wonderfully overblown Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing, we were treated to kind of a mini version on Dynamite, which was just as chaotic, just as silly, and just as fun. I don't really know how else to talk about this match other than by listing its big moments and basically letting them speak for themselves, so here we go. We had Matt Hardy locked in an icebox only to later re-emerge as his Damascus
I think I just saw the
persona.
highlights.
We had Kenny Omega moonsaulting off a bloody scissor lift like he was back in his DDT days in Japan. And of course, we had the now iconic running down of Sammy Guevara in a golf cart. What a bump. Ultimately, the heels won after interference from the rest of the Inner Circle, but of all the matches on this list, this one was less about the destination and more...
Kind of a garbage match, I'm not gonna lie. This was just silliness. It's not even, can you really call it a match? I don't know. I mean, it's cool, it was fun, it was a cool episode. It was like a teaser for the Stadium Stampede.
About the journey. The absolutely ludicrous journey, yes, but, the journey. Number 4, the Young Bucks versus Private Party. One of the big...
No, that's impossible. There's no way Private Party should be on any list of best matches in the first year of AEW. That's just not even a thing.
Years ahead of Dynamite's launch was the idea that AEW's executive vice presidents would make themselves the focal point of the show, constantly beating newer talent and not allowing anybody to get more over than themselves.
Boy, they were wrong as fuck about that, man. That's like all they did was put over other talent. They could give a shit less. All they did was put over other people.
Thankfully, this has since proven to be largely untrue. I mean, yes, the Elite Boys do win a hefty share of their matches, but none of them have held the company's top title, and their losses have been used to elevate various other roster members, such as Pac, MJF, and Brody Lee, amongst many others. Even in victory, the EVPs have actually been quite selfless. Cody's TNT title run shone a spotlight on a diverse range of opponents, and Kenny Omega's stint in the tag division has allowed many others to impress in singles action in his absence. But I think it's fair to say that if fans were worried about anyone putting themselves over at the expense of their opposition, it wasn't Cody, and it wasn't even Kenny Omega, it was probably the Young Bucks. So when AEW's first few episodes featured a tag title tournament to decide the inaugural champions,
No fucking shot, man. No shot. This list is fucked. I'm sorry. This list is fucked. Something is wrong here. Yeah, let me look at this.
AEW's first few episodes featured a tag title tournament.
Okay, all right. Out of this, the Young Bucks beat Private Party. That was a shit match. The Lucha Brothers beat Jurassic Express. I mean, you have the Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers, and that's always going to be on here. And then you had, was it Best Friends versus Dark Order? I want to say it was Best Friends versus, it might have been SCU versus Dark Order. And then SCU versus Young Bucks. And then SCU wins. I mean, definitely the best match here is Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers all day, every day. Never Young Bucks versus Private Party. Private Party doesn't... Maybe they're really good now. They were a fucking botch fest all throughout the first year of the show. No fucking way. No shot. I've never seen a good Private Party match. Nothing against those guys. I bet they're awesome. They were just kind of new in my opinion. Maybe they've been around. I don't know. Look, shit was botchy as fuck. No fucking way.
To decide the inaugural champions, it seemed pretty much a foregone conclusion that the gold would either belong to the Jacksons or their closest rivals, the Lucha Bros, and nobody was really looking further than that. Instead, shockingly, the Bucks were eliminated in the very first round.
And that's
Not only
sad.
that, but the Bucks lost to a very new tag team.
All right, so they put them over. They didn't do Lucha Brothers versus. I mean, Lucha Brothers and Young Bucks did have matches this year, and they were all better than this. So I think everyone was disappointed not to see that again, and to see this happen. But this is. I mean, I'm glad it happened. I'm glad I put them over. I'm not upset about that in any way. I don't think it went the wrong way. Just not. This is not one of the best matches of the first year.
In the form of Private Party, a duo who had never featured in a major promotion before. Mark Quinn and
there you
Isaiah
go.
Cassidy sent Matt and Nick packing in a textbook display of how to elevate less familiar stars in the eyes of a big audience. Matching the Bucks in terms of athleticism and flair,
It hardly
seemed
worked.
as though Private Party would eventually fall after a valiant effort. But instead, to the surprise of just about everyone, the younger team reversed the Meltzer driver and pulled off one of
It's like he's like talking about good booking. I mean, you know, it is good. Look, all of AEW is good booking. It doesn't mean it's the best match. Yeah, they do good booking. That's why we watch it. But these are not the best matches.
AEW's most shocking upsets to date. Then they celebrated wildly in the crowd a lot for a long time, for a very, very long time. But you can hardly blame them, can you? Number 3, Cody versus Wardlow. It's no secret that Cody loves.
All right. He did put this one on here. Once again, I don't think this is. I had to backtrack on this. This is not a good match. It's an amazing spot. I hope they show the spot because the fucking moonsault off the top is fucking crazy.
Old school wrestling. It makes sense, being the son of a legend and all, and one only has to look at his storylines with the likes of Nick Aldis, Shawn Spears, Chris Jericho, MJF, and of course his own brother Dustin to see that old mid-Atlantic influence seeping through. Those feuds were all blown off on pay-per-view, but it was the rivalry with MJF that brought Cody's wonderful brand of storytelling to weekly TV. In order to secure a match with his treacherous former friend, Cody wasn't allowed to harm MJF until Revolution, and even had to take 10 lashes from his opponent. And there was also the small matter of beating Wardlow. in a steel cage, by the way. To say this match was a challenge would be an understatement. The pair had only just over 10 minutes of TV time remaining to tell a very complex story, and were closing probably the best single episode of Dynamite since the show's entire launch. In fact, this match took place immediately after the next match we're going to talk about on this list. So yeah, the challenges were pretty immense. Oh, and we forgot to mention as well, it was Wardlow's AEW debut too, so no pressure, lads, best of luck. And in terms of moves and action, this is easily the most simple match in our top 10, but that is in no way a bad thing. The pair went back to basics with a beloved busted open...
It is kind of a bad thing. It's very basic. It's very old school. It's not really indicative of what AEW is about. It's a great spot, though. The spot at the end is amazing, but no, this is not one of the best matches.
Good guy taking it to his rival's big, scary henchman. And Cody's climactic moonsault from the very top of the cage may have been something from a slightly newer age, but it put a firm exclamation point on a match straight from the 1980s. Number 2, Hangman Page and Kenny Omega versus the Lucha Bros. We're sticking with the exact same show as our last entry now, but going one match beforehand chronologically.
Are you literally going to put a Kenny Omega and Hangman Dallas Page match on here twice? Because I know it's number 1. I know them versus Young Bucks is number... I wouldn't put this on. It's like, it's a good match. Don't get me fucking wrong. It's a good match, but your fucking list is weird, buddy.
For a big tag title defense. As we've made clear by now, and honestly...
Yeah, that match. This match should be on here. Yeah. This was good. Or Santana and Ortiz versus the Young Bucks should have been on the other list. This is a good match. For this spot alone, this is fucking insanity. But yeah, all the shit Santana and Ortiz were doing in this match, it was really next level. It was really cool. The storytelling was awesome. This was a great match, like an actual good match.
Have also loved making clear by now, their tag team division is very, very strong. You might have heard them mention it once or twice. And to be honest, you can't blame them for being very proud, because when you've got tried and tested teams like the Young Bucks, FTR, the Lucha Bros, Uno and Grayson, and SCU, mixing it with bright newer talents like Private Party and Jurassic Express, you know you're pretty much onto a winner. There's crowd-popping babyface teams like Best Friends and malicious heel teams like Proud
Got to give the people what they want.
The most impressive tag team hadn't even teamed together before Dynamite began. We've already talked about Hangman and Omega earlier on, but things really started to kick into gear after they won the tag belts on that cruise ship. Suddenly, Hangman's relationship with the...
Fuck, how many matches? I mean, yeah, I know the storyline's good. I mean, yeah, Kenny Omega and Hangman Dallas Page is fucking awesome, but it's really this match. This is number 1. Good, you've represented it. Please, this motherfucker didn't watch. He didn't watch the goddamn show. He didn't do his goddamn homework. He didn't watch these fucking matches. I'm almost certain of it now. This is just content for fucking content. I know Adam. I know the guy from the previous video. He watched the matches. He watched every single episode of Dynamite. He wrote them down. He ranked them. He gave you his actual list. He did his homework. This guy, I'm calling him out. You didn't do your fucking homework. You didn't watch these matches. You're full of shit, my friend. You're pulling shit out of your ass. All you watched were the fucking Hangman Dallas Page matches with Kenny Omega. You didn't watch the rest of the fucking show. I can almost guarantee it, because you're missing so many great matches. You don't seem to know what the fuck you're talking about. You're pulling matches that aren't even within the year. You're called out, son. You're on fucking notice.
Rest of the elite was almost
man I will never meet,
and everybody had to get on the same page to fight off the inner circle. On top of all that, Omega and Page were still regularly defending their tag belts, and the best televised defense certainly came against the Lucha Bros. It's hard to tell whether AEW have helped or hindered Penta and Phoenix by focusing on them entirely as tag team stars. Because a few years ago, Lucha Underground showed us the immense talent of both.
He literally had one of the Young Buck and Ray, the solo match, as an honorable mention. What the fuck, dude?
In a singles capacity, but then...
This is Cultaholic, which is just about as bad as What Culture, quite honestly. I don't normally watch this shit, but I wanted to talk about the first year, so I figured I'd put these on, but god damn, this list is pissing me off.
On the other hand, there's no denying their electric ability as a team. And that ability was on full display in this match as all 4 men brought their A game. The bout was wrestled at a bit of a frantic pace, but it also contained slightly slower moments, allowing the drama to grow. Phoenix was,
I mean, where the fuck are we at? God, let me just watch it because we're just missing so much shit. Oh my fucking God.
as always, the athletic standout, but the emotional center of the match was definitely Hangman Page. He accidentally blasted Kenny Omega with a buckshot lariat, only for Kenny to survive the subsequent penta.
He literally did that every single match. He literally hit him with the buckshot lariat every fucking match. Every time. It's like what they did. It was part of the fucking story. He just did it every fucking match. So how could this one be... fuck, it happened every fucking time.
Driver and pinfall attempt, making it one of the near falls of the entire year. From there, the champs went on to retain, and the Young Bucks came out to help a banged up Omega back to his feet, making Hangman feel awkward because, you know, that's your opponents for the next pay-per-view, Kenny. What are you doing? This led to the match at Revolution, one of the matches of the year, maybe even the match of the year, and the rest is history. And finally, number 1, Kenny Omega versus...
What the fuck is this match? Wait, you just said it was the match of the year and it's not on the list? You just said that match was the... All right, no. And no fucking way is Kenny Omega versus Pac the number 1 match. There's no fucking universe where that's correct. We're missing Moxley versus Omega. We're missing everything on here. Holy fucking shit. No, I take it back. I absolutely take it back. This first one here, Wrestle Talk, 10 Best 80, and Adam... he did great. Adam, you fucking rock. 10 Best AEW first year matches. First off, you actually knew when the year began and end. You picked all the right matches. I don't even argue with your list anymore. I think you're 100% correct. You can just use the ones that I mentioned as honorable mentions. You can trust me. I'm Mr. Hargrave. Holy shit. If you have a list, if you have your 10 best matches, let me know down below. I want to know what your 10 best matches were. Maybe I'll even take the time, make my own list, and I'll throw it down there too. Let's all meet down in the comment sections. Let's like and subscribe and ring bells, and let's be grave diggers together and keep digging.